Welcome to Table Talk, where I unpack ideas and insights from Christian theology and spirituality that help you become a more thoughtful, calm, and just a wonderful human being. My name is Brett Silford, pastor at the table in Saxe, Texas, and this is part 6 of our series titled Conflict, What to Do When Relationships Break Down. And today I want to talk about the 3 most common ways that we bump into ourselves. Not literally, it's a metaphor. A few videos ago, I used this phrase, bumping into myself, to describe the way that so often we're just very tempted to say the issue is them, it's those people, or the issue is that, it's those circumstances. I feel this way, I'm acting this way because of them, right? And when the truth is at the level of the individual, right? At my personal level, my emotional turmoil really is mine to deal with. And by the way, this is not saying there's no such thing as injustice in the world, or that if you experience evil, it's your fault. Not at all. This is not about assigning fault or blame. I'm simply talking about us taking ownership for how we respond to the actions of others and the circumstances we find ourselves in. So, without further ado, let's unpack these 3 common ways that we bump into ourselves. First is the freeze reaction. That is to say, I experience something bad, and I panic, and I become paralyzed. So maybe my boss is like chewing me out, not just giving me feedback, but it's a verbal lashing. And instead of saying, there's maybe some truth in what you're saying, but you need to calm down, right? This is inappropriate. Instead, I just freeze. You ever been there? Like, your mind is just blank. No words are coming. We all of a sudden feel totally incapable of action. So this reaction really goes all the way back to our brain and what we might call, it's sort of popularly known as the reptile or the lizard brain. It's sort of the right there on our brain stem. This portion of our brain, it's responsible for keeping us alive. And what can happen is that when we become overwhelmed by fear, boom, we freeze. Right? Just like the deer caught in the headlights or a rabbit hiding from the wolf, we freeze. So that's the first way that we bump into ourselves. It's sort of the freeze reaction. Second is the flight reaction. This is where I become afraid or hurt or emotionally wounded and I run. Like perhaps literally I actually get up and run out of the room. Or more, metaphorically, my mind starts racing and I'm no longer tracking what the other person is saying or doing because I am planning my exit. My brain is screaming, go, 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 go. If you ever find yourself basically constantly ending friendships or quitting jobs, and not just, one, but it's like this is a pattern, threatening divorce all the time, it's very likely this is your brain's learned response, right? This is how you're protecting yourself. It's the flight reaction. Third way that we bump into ourselves is, of course, the fight reaction. This is the person who, when backed into the metaphorical corner, comes out swinging. And this could be like literal physical violence, or more often it's with words, right? So they feel attacked verbally, and what do? They go on the attack. Their life motto is the best defense is a good offense. And I see this in myself a lot. When someone, for example, critiques or criticizes me, there it comes out. Just the other day, my wife, Maggie, was very kindly, honestly, she was pointing out that the way I was parenting our children was less than helpful. And so she's giving me this feedback, and immediately my brain begins to just race and create excuses and construct elaborate arguments and then counter arguments to what I know will be her arguments against my arguments. And in that moment, was I interested in learning about myself? Was I, attempting to become a better parent? No. I was ready to fight my way out of that situation to preserve my fragile sense of self. So that was me bumping into myself, right? And those are the 3 common ways that we find ourselves doing this throughout our days, our weeks, our years, right? Is we're bumping into ourselves through by freezing, through our flight, through our fight. Okay, so what's the answer? How do we overcome this? Honestly, there is no answer. There's no hope. I'm kidding. All right, so there's a pretty simple 3-step formula. I got this from therapist and a professor of mine, Dr. Frank Green. I mentioned him a few videos back. And so he has a 3 sort of step process. Step 1 is, he calls it sort of stop. Step 2, back up. Step 3, do it again. So stop, back up, do it again. You see, the brain, this really comes back to some things we've learned about neuroscience, and basically the brain forms really deep grooves along the 3 reactions: the freeze, the flight, the fight reactions. And so when you do this over and over and over, it's sort of like a groove. You can think of it like a path in the forest that over time, through use, it eventually becomes, a wide road. And then after decades of a certain reaction, now it's like an 8-lane superhighway. And so these 3 steps are basically helping you cut a new path. So when you stop, right, you're refusing to go down that superhighway. When you back up, you're saying, that wasn't such a good response. Let me try a different path. Let me begin to forge a new way of responding. And then do it again is walking out a new response. And so perhaps instead of the freeze reaction, that superhighway, you choose to respond calmly, and you stand up for yourself, right? That's a new path. You're stopping, you're backing up, and you're doing something different. Or instead of the flight reaction, you respond by facing the fear, addressing it. Instead of the fight response or reaction, you respond with a few deep breaths and just a more vulnerable and honest, there might be truth in what you're saying, right? So I believe this point is captured really beautifully by a life coach friend of mine. Her name is Wendy Good, and she summed it up like this. She said, "We must learn to respond, not react." And I think that's exactly it. So that's the 3 steps. Stop, back up, do it again. And over time, you'll begin to form new, healthier superhighways, which will positively impact, honestly, your response in every conflict you find yourself in. And that's a really big deal. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment, share it with a friend, and subscribe to my YouTube channel by searching Brett Tilford. Grace and peace.